Hey guys, how is it all going? So, as always, thank you so much for joining me for what is my Halloween 2 from 1981 movie review. And to get into the very quick plot of Halloween 2 is carries on straight away from John Carpenter's Halloween. It is set on the same Halloween night. Laurie Strode is taken to the hospital after the event of what happened to her at the end of the original Halloween movie. And Dr Loomis is still on the hunt to find Michael Myers, who is still being his creepy self around Haddonfield. Now, I haven't seen Halloween 2 for an extremely long time. And I remember when I first watched it, I didn't particularly enjoy it that much, but I must have been, God, I must have been about 10, 11, 12 years old when I first watched Halloween 2. And I didn't really appreciate it. I found it too slow and too boring and not enough gore, surprisingly, because I was getting raised on pretty much like Nightmare on Elm Street movies and Friday the 13th movies and other horror movies that were, that were gory on the kills. So Halloween 2 for me when I was younger, I wasn't really a fan of. So, like I said, I hadn't seen it for years. And then I've rewatched it again to do this review for you guys. And I have to say, I really, really, really enjoyed this movie. I think it is a solid sequel to the original Halloween. Now, do I think it's as good as John Carpenter's Halloween? No, not at all. But that would have been a hard bar to hit because John Carpenter's Halloween for me is as close to a masterpiece as you're going to get in horror. There is not many better horror movies than Halloween. There is a reason why it is literally in the Mount Rushmore of horror. It is right up there with The Exorcist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, movies like that. And oftentimes it is at top of that mountain for some horror fans anyway. But I thought for what they gave us for the sequel, it was a solid sequel. Now, what I really enjoy about this sequel, and isn't it weird how our tastes change as we get older over time? Like I said, I never used to enjoy it, but now I really did. Weird. But anyway, what I actually really enjoyed about it this time was that it takes place on the same night. It is the same night as John Carpenter's Halloween. Literally the second John Carpenter's Halloween ends, this picks up. And I like that. And I like the fact that we see the aftermath of everything that happened in John Carpenter's Halloween movie. And it makes sense. It makes sense to have it on the same night. So Michael had just got up. He starts walking off. He's picking off new victims. And I like the way it's directed. And it was Rick Rosenthal took the director chair for this one. And I like how he keeps it the same. It looks the same. It feels the same as John Carpenter's Halloween. Like the style, the atmosphere, the way he builds tension. It is all similar to John Carpenter's Halloween. And I really do appreciate that because that's what I love about the original movie. The way it takes its time. The way we see Michael walking around stalking his victims. And I always love that you can hear Michael breathing in the point of view shots as Michael. It is so unsettling, and it's one of my favourite things about the original two movies. And also, while we're on Michael Myers, he is played by Dick Warlock in this sequel. And I thought he did a really good job as Michael Myers. I'm not going to say he's probably as good as Nick Castle in the original, or say Michael Myers in the new ones, who I actually thought, what's his name, Jude Courtney or John Courtney, whichever way it goes around, I can't remember. I thought he did a great job as Michael Myers himself. He was one of the highlights of them three movies. But I thought Dick Warlock actually did a really good job. And there's some brilliant scenes with Michael Myers in this Halloween 2 movie. And the one that really sticks into my mind is when the young nurse goes into the doctor's office and he's just sat there in his chair with his back to the camera. And as she spins the chair around, you see that he's got a needle in his eye. And you know me, guys, anything to do with eyes, just the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I just hate it. And anyway, as she's kind of walking backwards, you just see Michael's mask. It just comes into the frame in the darkness. And then he, attacks her with a syringe and puts it above her eye. I think that shot is one of the best shots of all the Halloween series. It's just, there's no music kicks in. It's just so very subtle. Just as you see the mask just comes into the light, into the focus. And then as the nurse drops to the floor, you see like the reflections of the fish tank that was next to the doctor's desk. You just see it kind of on his mask there. And I just think it's a fantastic shot. I really do. Like I said, I think this movie is very well paced and very well directed. Now, what I didn't know, when I was just looking little things up, I didn't know that originally Rick Rosenthal, and I hope I'm saying this last name right, I really do, but he kept like the gore and the kills kind of at its bare minimum, like, you know, not as brutal. And he kind of tried to keep it the same as the original. Like, if you watch the original, it's not very gory at all. And it's not really brutal. It's quite subtle, Halloween. And Rick Rosenthal did the same in this movie. And surprisingly enough, John Carpenter, I think, either reshot or redid a few of the kill scenes to make them more kind of gory or brutal. Because at the time, I would say when Halloween 2 came out, which was like in 1981, you know, I think that's when like the slasher boom kind of really started. I mean, you would have had like Friday the 13th, you would have had probably Friday the 13th Part 2 out by that point, and other slasher movies, which I can't think of off the top of my head. Probably The Burning, I think, came out in 1981, didn't it? And they all probably tried to outdo each other with the kills and the gore and stuff. And Halloween 2, I feel, kind of fell into the victim of that. And I'm just going to slightly move into my negatives now with the movie. I don't feel like the movie really needed it. I wish we could have kept to the original director's vision and kept it the same as the original. I kind of appreciate that's what he did. But like I said, I don't know whether it was John Carpenter that wanted to change it himself, or maybe it was a note from the studio that came down and said, look, we need the kills a bit more brutal, a bit more blood, you know, whatever, to kind of compete with these other slashers. I don't feel like Halloween needed it, but it happened. And to be fair, the kills are quite good. Oh, there's one with this young girl with like a hot tub with boiling water, and he just keeps dunking her head in it, and every time it's lifting up, you're just seeing her face, like skin more melting off, and he's just burying her back in and lifting her back up again, and just horrible. But his hand's okay. You know, Michael Myers, you know, his hand's going into the same boiling water, but pulling up, his hand's fine, but her head keeps getting worse. Yeah. Don't know why, but yeah, it happens. But also, there's this one scene in it as well, which, like, this is probably, for me, one of my biggest things of this movie that I just can't wrap my head around. Now, for a good part of this movie, it's set in a hospital, and that's where Laurie's character spends the most time. And I will say that I'll just touch on this a little bit. I think Laurie's character is not used really well in this movie. She doesn't really do much until the final act. And I get it, because we're carrying on from the same Halloween night. It's literally following on from the original. And she would be in hospital, and she wouldn't be doing much. I get that. I actually get that. But they could have just give us something more to do, I think. You know what I mean? Because I love Laurie as a character, but I just think her character is so wasted in this movie. And I'll tell you what, just to pull back into my positives a little bit here, because it went out my mind just talking about characters. Donald Pleasence as Dr. Loomis kills it in this movie. I absolutely love him. Every time he pops up on screen, he just elevates the material all the time. I could sit there and just listen to him, just, you know, just wax poetry about Michael Myers when he's talking about how evil, he's not human, you know, he's the devil, there's nothing behind them eyes. I could just listen to that for an hour and a half. I really could. I love Dr. Loomis as a character, and I love Donald Pleasence as an actor. He kills it in this one. I think he's even better as Dr. Loomis in this movie than the first one. And that's not to say he's not good in the first one, because I bloody love him in the first one, but I love him in this sequel. I wish more this sequel followed more Dr. Loomis in this, without cutting to the hospital all the time when... And that's one criticism of the movie as well, where it kind of says like a lot of things don't really happen, like scenes are just dragged out for the runtime. And I kind of understand that a little bit, but it never bothers me because that's what I enjoyed about the first one. I like the slow build up. I like the tension. I like that we get the point of view of Michael Myers in the hospital occasionally. And then you just kind of see him in the background just walking off as well. And it's so subtly done. I think it's brilliant. So I don't mind all of that. But yeah, Dr. Loomis, fucking brilliant. Love him. Awesome in this movie. To jump back into my negatives, like I said, they could have done more with Laurie. But there's this one scene where Laurie, Michael stalking her, she finally gets out the hospital. Gets out. Now, I know she's got a sore ankle. I know. I get it. I know. But she's been moving on it pretty well up to now, to be fair. We go into this final act. She's pretty much running on it. And she gets away from Michael. And then she just goes into the car park and she just jumps into a car and hides. No. You get out the hospital. I don't care how sore your ankle is. You are absolutely out of there. You are leaving that car park. You are down that road. You are going as far away from that building as possible. And it just always bugged me. I don't know why. And then she sits in the car and Jimmy, who's probably one of the most useless horror characters in horror movie history ever, turns up, passes out again, hits the car horn. The car horn's going off, which is not a good sign because Michael's going to come out and see what the noise is all about, isn't he? But then you see Dr. Loomis and the other characters turn up in the car, and then Laurie falls out the car. Now, all of a sudden, her legs just don't work. And for whatever reason, she just can't really make any sound out of her mouth. She's trying to scream to them in the car, and it's like, oh, what happened to your voice all of a sudden? I don't know. It's a scene that just bugs me. I don't know why. There's just no way you would still be hanging around. You would be so far gone. You would. I don't care. You would. But anyway, all in all, I think this is a solid sequel. I think this is an extremely good Halloween movie. One of the best. I am not going to say it's my favourite sequel, though. You will have to wait for that one. But I think this is extremely solid. It's a solid sequel. It's well directed. Dick Warlock is brilliant as Michael Myers. Donald Pleasence is awesome as Dr. Loomis. Jamie Lee Curtis, for what she does well, but she's not given a lot of material. But I love Jamie Lee Curtis anyway, and I think she's great as Laurie. So overall, guys, I give Halloween 2 from 1981 a solid 4 out of 5. So guys, do you agree with me when it comes to Halloween 2? Do you think it's a solid Halloween movie? Do you think it's a solid sequel? Do you not like Halloween 2? Do you prefer the other sequels? Whatever it is, guys, please leave a comment below. It is absolutely always a pleasure hearing from you. And as always, please take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you again real soon. Take care, guys. Goodbye now.